Hello and welcome to Orbiting Brick. First of all, I want to thank you for the positive response on my previous video, the New Horizons Space Race first episode. More episodes will certainly be coming. In fact, I believe the next video after this one should be episode 2. Yeah, here's a normal video for you. And I want to do something actually new. Because if I don't get drowned out right now, I've realized that I've played with so many planet mods. However, I don't think I've ever actually gone to any of the new Celestial bodies. Every single time I play planet mod, and the Celestial bodies I've gone to, have always been ones that exist in stock, besides Sona New Horizons, because, I mean, you can't, well, I also haven't really done mission specific to Sona. Basically, decided to change that. Actually, I guess I did do that mission to Apshire. Well, still, wanted to go to one of the new Celestial bodies. It's... I'm not actually sure how to pronounce it. Ali maybe? I'm gonna pronounce it Eli. Yeah, it's one of the moons of Sona, which, if you don't know, in the New Horizons planet pack, it's the blue gas giant you saw earlier. It is, well, it's the parent body for Kerbal, which is now a moon. And yeah, we're going to be heading there. And yeah, landing, and we only have one Kerbal. Since I want to do this as a more efficient mission, this would be very detrimental to the mission long term, as you'll see. And yeah, that's why the title and thumbnail is what they are. But right now, let's ignore the failure that will happen later, and continue on ascending into orbit. Launch vehicle was pretty standard. And yeah, we're doing orbital insertion, which is about to be concluded. You can see, trying to do something different with the command module and the lander. And there we go, we've reached orbit. And yeah, as you saw, the command module does not have a docking port on its front. Instead, there's a docking port, I guess at the back of it. We have radio engines. You can also see the solar panels deployed there. Anyways, once we're in orbit, we can now plot our maneuvers to Eli, or... I'm already blanking on how to decide what to pronounce it, just the celestial body we're going to. And this would take a while, but eventually we'll get a trajectory that would get us there. And we can start burning. And here's actually one of the first mistakes will occur, where for some reason all the molar propellant will vanish. I have no idea if I had pretty decent reserves of molar propellant, but before we even reach Eli, we've completely run out of molar propellant. Yeah, that upper stage is expanded, and we can now start this stage. By the way, those other engines besides the carrier are propellant RCS thrusters from near future launch vehicles, I believe. Maybe near future spacecraft. And trying to do something different for knowledge. Yeah, we now leave Kerbal behind. You also got a nice view of the IVA view there. And whilst we're on the way to Eli, we'll have to do a mid-course correction, which should be coming up pretty soon. Hopefully. How long do I hold on this frame? There we go. And also some views from the IVA. And now I probably should say that the only Kerbal we have on board is a pilot, which means that she cannot just repair any stuff that may break on the spacecraft, since I have EVA repairs, which, yeah, that's gonna come into play later on. In fact, it might already have come into play. Remember, I believe it's the reaction wheel on the lander module. Well, at least one of them broke fairly early on, I believe. Yeah, now we approach Eli, which, I have to be honest, isn't all that exciting of a place. But we can insert into orbit. Not by the way, because we only have 2 crew modules on this spacecraft, We also have a very low hab time on it, because with the USI life support, Kerbals will... It, it's a calculate based on living space and also time of mission. Basically, yeah, it means before we even return to Kerbin, our sole pilot will refuse to work, which actually isn't that much of a problem since the craft can be remotely controlled. You have the command pod set up to allow for autonomous control, and yeah, that's about it. So, I mean, we're not completely doomed if we can't control the craft using the pilot. Anyways, that's not going to happen for a while now, so the Kerbal can transfer to the lander, and we can begin to plot our descent. And as I said before, we don't have RCS, which is a problem since we also have lost both reaction wheels to random part failures. And we can begin our deorbit burn now. There we go. And now, so far, everything seems pretty good. The aircraft is still controllable, however that's going to rapidly change pretty soon. Now, still performing this main deorbit burn, I hope to land on one of the higher plateau areas of this celestial body. And as you can see, we have some cargo containers, so you can set up some surface science experiments. Any moment now that the orbit burn will wrap up. And now, yeah, this is spun up because so far it's a fairly normal descent. And using that lower stage, and I'm pretty sure I'll actually have to detach it slightly before it runs out of fuel. And we're approaching the surface now, under 10 kilometers. And as you can see, landing gear now deploy. And we can detach that stage, which will go flying off, and now our lander has no attitude control in the slightest, aside from using the engine. And that seems to be working fine right now, except now we have significant horizontal velocity, and it's tumbling. And I believe I don't need to speak for what's about to happen. I believe you can see just fine what's about to happen. There goes one of the remaining reaction wheels. And, of course, classic. Again, we don't have RCS, so we can't write the craft. And now, this seems very bad. In fact, our Kerbal can't even EVA. Also, our landing gear will a bunch of them will just randomly break, so they can't be retracted. But through this incredibly risky maneuver, I'm able to flip the craft over. Which means at least we can go on EVA now, and pretend that everything is fine, and stop our surface science and plant our flag, which you're about to see. We can also try and push the spacecraft over, which is not gonna work. Yep, there goes the planted flag. We also have this work lamp to set up, which everyone complains it always tips over, but for some reason this one worked fine first try. Now we can go out, sign up surface science. I've heard that there's a specific way you're supposed to deploy all this stuff, but I just set the stuff down in random order and it all seems to work out. There's the experiment control station, 2 RTGs, selected because they have the best power production for a unskilled Kerbal. Because, fun fact, the power units generate more electricity if they're deployed by an engineer. And if the Kerbal is not an engineer, the solar panels produce 1 unit of electric charge each, whilst the RTGs produce 4. Anyways, we can now finish up deploying our science. Most of it is from Blue Dog Design Bureau, the only mod I've seen which actually adds more of this deployable science. And for some reason this retroreflector seems a bit broken right now. Not sure why that is. Yeah, I am unable to store the data. Now with all these science conducted on the surface, we now need to try and figure out how to get back home. And now this is going to lead to some even more just risky and just strange maneuvers. Again, I'll first go back to trying to push the spacecraft over, and then I'll do this. I think it speaks for itself. So first attempt not going great, however, the craft does that. Which prompts me to reactivate all the engines. And of course, we use all the mod propellant, and we were able to siphon some mod propellant from the Kerbal UVA pack, so that's why I have some. Yeah, we're able to do that. And somehow, despite pointing toward the surface for a majority of the burn, we somehow still end up not crashing. In fact, we actually make it back into orbit. Yeah, of course, this craft has very little attitude control, which is going to make rendezvous and docking essentially impossible, which is going to lead to well, it's going to be a process. Yeah, right now we're inserting into orbit. We're not being efficient in the slightest, but then again, we have plenty of Delta V left to spare. Now this was a very long rendezvous process, so I think I'll skip through most of it. We're still looking okay on life support. But yeah, this means that again the hab timer will run out before we return to Kerbin, which again will be surprisingly one of the just lesser issues we'll experience. Yeah, I'm initially using the lander demooster rendezvous, but I'll later switch to the command module, which again does have a probe core on it. So, well, after having to basically redo the entire rendezvous procedure, since I messed up the first encounter, we're able to finally get the craft pretty close to each other. Of course, neither has precise control, so it's obviously gonna be impossible to dock the craft together. However, we don't need the dock to transfer the Kerbal over. I've gone her on the ladder, and I'm gonna try and do some very, again, another strange maneuver. And again, she does not have any more propellant for her maneuvering unit. So, the moment the Kerbal lets go of the ladder, they cannot be controlled. And this first attempt will not go ideal. And so yeah, now our pilot is completely free-floating, and this seems like a very bad situation. However, despite having basically zero control of the craft, you're about to see what I'm able to do next. I'm able to get the command module to precisely approach Kerbal, and she is able to board. Also, for some reason, the IVA keeps bugging out even though I can't see anything wrong with it, so I'm not sure why that error keeps popping up. Anyways, and now that the Kerbal has been recovered, we can, as quickly as possible, leave this place. And make a quick save there. And a trajectory that will allow us to get back to Kerbin as quick as possible and require as few maneuvers as possible, since again, we're not going to be able to have precise control once the pilot refuses to work. And we're about to start our burn. There we go. Again, with this one maneuver, we'll be able to get a 30km per hour swing Kerbin. And once that completes, as you can see, just directly from this maneuver, we're able to get a nice encounter with Kerbin, and we'll be able to return without further course adjustments. Once we do a few course adjustments, which I guess means, well, look, we won't have to do any maneuvers outside of the sphere of influence of Ally. I always train, Eli, that's how I said I was going to pronounce it. Hopefully that pronunciation is solidified to something by the time it becomes relevant in the New Horizons space race. Yeah, after coasting through space for a few days, the spacecraft starts to approach Kerbin. We're actually going to approach from just directly over the South Pole, essentially. Which is a very interesting view of Kerbin. As you can see, the Kerbal has had her profession updated to a tourist. Well, she can't see that since it's not listed, but trust me, the half timer has run out. Now we can adjust in the service module. And re-enter. And from here it's pretty simple. All the craft needs to do is hold retrograde. I want to get some nice shots of the re-entry plasma from the amazing Firefly mod. At this point, the camera view changes for no real reason. Yeah, I'm using a Tintori's parachute, and I decided this video has gone on for long enough, so pretty soon we'll just cut to landing. And yeah, the battery will just run out on the craft, not sure why. Yeah, right as the plasma subsides, we'll lose complete control. Yeah, for some reason, the stock scatter re-enabled itself, which probably is why it's so laggy. Now we're able to land. I want to thank you for watching, please like and subscribe, and goodbye.